The news reporter is collecting evidence from inside the lab when he sees a woman. To save her, he breaks the door of the lab, and as soon as that woman comes out, she attacks the news reporter. And a parasite comes out of the woman and enters the reporter, and the reporter becomes very powerful, after which... So once again, welcome to the Recap by Olivia channel. In the beginning of the movie, we showed a foundation. The foundation has sent its spaceship to bring the 4 parasites, but they get the news that, while returning from space, the spaceship crashed. And we don't know if the parasites that were present in that spaceship were left behind or not. They immediately sent the police there, and they started investigating that place. When the police arrive there, we see that among those 4 parasites, one hides itself in someone's body, and that parasite makes that person's body its host. It uses that person. They were taking an injured man to a hospital, but there was a woman who was reacting strangely, because that parasite was none other than in that woman. That woman breaks the ambulance and runs towards the country where that foundation was, which has sent its spaceship into space. But here is this scene shift, and then we see a boy whose name is Eddie, and he is a good news reporter. His company is happy with him. He also has a fiancée who works at that foundation, which sent its spaceship into space. Then we see Eddie, who goes to his office in the morning. His boss tells him that he is doing a good job. And you do all the tasks that I give you today. Nice. Actually, tomorrow you have to take an interview with the CEO of that foundation, means from its owner, and you have to ask him why he sent his spaceship into space. And what is this matter of parasites? Remember, don't talk to him except for this, because he is rich and also a bad man. If you will not talk about his favorite topic, he can also make you kill. Then Eddie says to his boss, "Okay, don't worry, I will take his interview well. I will only ask him about his inventions and discoveries." Then, at night, we see that Eddie arrives at his home. There was his fiancée's laptop in front of him, and then he receives mail from someone on the laptop. That email was sent by a member of that foundation, saying that this foundation is not good and is taking people's lives. It will also use you. Please leave it. And there were also details of their experiments in that mail. Who are these parasites? And from where did they come? What kind of experiments will be done on them? They will also use innocent people for this. When Eddie gets to know all of these, he thinks that I have a good chance. I have an interview with that man in the morning, so I will ask him everything. Even though my boss has forbidden me to do this, this can be rocking news. The next day, we see that bad man as CEO. He is also the main villain in this movie. Now it was time for Eddie to take the interview, so he comes to him and starts their interview. At the start, Eddie asks him, "Tell me, what have you discovered in space?" The owner of that foundation was happy while answering those questions. But then Eddie starts changing his questions. He says to him that I have heard that you will now choose humans for your experiments, while playing with their lives. Are you going to make your experiments successful like this? And as soon as that owner hears this, he doesn't seem good to Eddie. He tells him to immediately close his interview and leave here. Eddie was thrown outside. Then Eddie goes to his office to see his boss. His boss scolds him, "That you have put your leg into this matter even though I have forbidden you. Now get ready for its conclusion and for the happenings that will follow." He terminates him in anger. On the other side, Eddie's fiancée was also terminated from her job. His fiancée was aggressive with Eddie. She says that I am breaking up with you. You are a fool. We both lost our jobs just because of you. She removes all the links to him and goes far away. Then the scene changes here. We see a lab where they were doing experiments while making their different forms, in which form that parasite stays more powerful. They place a rabbit in a glass box and leave that yellow parasite there. To see that, what will that yellow parasite do with that rabbit? The owner of that foundation was also there. There was his lab worker who was seeing that experiment. At first, they feel that there is a good bond between the rabbit and the parasite. They have become more powerful after mixing. But after some time, that rabbit dies, and this experiment fails. After that, we see Eddie, who comes to know him from the news, that the owner of that foundation is planning to send one more spaceship into space. But he knows that if he does this, many people will lose their lives, like before. He meets a woman on his way, and she tells him to purchase the newspaper from her. Eddie buys the newspaper from her. With it, he goes to a store. A robber comes there and starts robbing that store. But Eddie quietly buys his things and comes back after paying the bill. On the other side, we see the lab of that foundation company. There was that owner with that lab worker. Now they were doing that experiment on a human with that parasite, except for animals. But that parasite also couldn't meet the human body. It kills that human. Seeing it, the lab worker feels bad. She immediately goes from there to Eddie and tells him that this is happening at our foundation. She asks for help from him. But Eddie says that now I have left this profession. Now I will not fight with anyone. That lab worker says, try to understand. That owner is a bad man. He will take everyone's life. He actually doesn't want to be alive in this world. Because he knows that this world will be finished soon. He is doing experiments in space so that he can live there. That's why he brought 4 parasites from there. Those parasites were none other than the creatures of space. They were powerful. But when these 4 parasites were brought here, one of them ran away. Now the owner is doing experiments on the other 3 parasites. He is killing innocent people. She says to Eddie, please do something because you know how to approach the news reporters. Please publish this news. So that owner will be caught because I can't bear that people are dying. Eddie says, okay, I understand everything. Don't worry, I will do something soon. Then that girl brings Eddie with her to the lab, and Eddie secretly goes inside that lab where he sees that they are doing experiments on humans. He starts taking their pictures for evidence. He comes to know that the woman from whom he buys the newspaper was also there. Eddie feels bad. To save that woman's life, he starts breaking that glass door. That girl comes out of there. But she was connected to that parasite. That parasite leaves that girl's body and comes into Eddie's body. Now that parasite was affecting Eddie's body. And then all the guards were behind Eddie. Eddie starts running from there. But he was running so fast that a normal human can't run like this. It means that the parasite has affected him. He runs towards a forest. He climbs up a tree while jumping high. He saves his life from the guards. When they leave there, Eddie comes to his house. After returning home, he drinks a lot of water, and he starts eating the things that were in his house. His hunger was not gone. After that, he started vomiting. After, he was not feeling well, and there were changes in his body. Here, his face also changes. Seeing his face, he was getting worried. When he can't understand anything, he calls his fiancée while getting worried. His fiancée says that I have removed all my links to you. I am now with someone else, even though Eddie insists on her meeting. Then he goes to the restaurant to meet her. He starts eating all the food in the restaurant. But he says that I am not getting energy after eating it. This is dead meat. Give me something alive to eat. Then he sees the aquarium, and he starts eating crabs from it while sitting there. In fact, there was venom in Eddie's body. Means the strongest parasite among those 4 parasites. That's why it made the human body its host. But Eddie's fiancée and her friend couldn't understand it, so they take him to the hospital for his scan. After it, Eddie was sent to his home and told, when the reports come in, we will tell you. Now we see the scene of the foundation. The owner of that foundation comes to know that the lab worker has to call Eddie there. She gave him the approach to this place. That owner becomes aggressive with that girl. He also throws a parasite at her. Then we see Eddie at his house. Now he was aggressive. His neighbor was listening to loud music. He forbids him, but he ignores Eddie. So the parasite in Eddie's body means venom comes into anger. He forbids him. Meanwhile, some guards come there. Those were sent by the owner of that foundation. Here we see that venom was clearly appearing in his body and starts fighting with those guards. It was protecting Eddie. Now Eddie was more powerful. Even then, those guards don't leave him. Eddie moves from there on his bike, his fast speed and all the things that the owner was also watching. He starts saying to his people, see the parasite, which I discover is now prosperous. The owner of the foundation sends more guards behind him, and when Eddie jumps on his bike while escaping from them, he falls. His bones were broken, but now Venom's body comes out of his body. That makes a cover and saves Eddie's body. After it, Eddie means that Venom starts eating those guards. He comes to a place while passing by the water. Then Eddie asks Venom, why did you come into my body? And surprisingly, they can talk to each other. Then Venom tells him that my house is in space and I was brought here from space. Then I found your body and I thought that you were a good host. I request that you please send me to my home in space. Eddie has all the shreds of evidence that he clicked the pictures in that foundation. They were oppressing humans. He goes to his company to tell them this, but his companion didn't let him in. Then Venom says to Eddie that I am here. I will take you up. Then they go upside down. While breaking the window, he comes into the office of his boss. He places a note there with the evidence. But then the guards of that owner arrive and attack him. They started shooting him. But Venom again comes out of Eddie's body and protects him. That Venom, after defeating all the guards, was about to eat one of them. But then his fiancée arrives there who had broken up with him. Eddie returns to humans again. He says to her, "What are you doing here?" That girl says to him, "If you know that you are on medication, then what are you doing here?" Before anything happens, immediately come with me. They come to the hospital. The friend of his ex-fiancée scans him again. Finally, they are successful here. To take that Venom out of Eddie's body. Eddie was feeling light and happy. He says to that Venom that I also didn't want you to come into my body. But then the people of that foundation again kidnapped him. Then he represented him in front of that owner. Then we came to know that there was also a parasite in the body of that foundation owner. That was transferred by a girl into his body. He was saying to Eddie, "Give me that parasite that is in your body." Eddie says that it has gone a few times since leaving my body. That is not with me, it is somewhere else. Go and find it. That owner says that doesn't make me aggressive. I can also change into a parasite. With it, he changes into a monster-type parasite. That was another main parasite in this movie. Then Eddie says, "Please don't scare me with this. You are proud of it, but you will also get tired of it after some time. It will control you." Then the owner says that it doesn't matter. When Eddie doesn't answer him, he tells his guards to throw him outside while pushing him and kill him. But then we see that Venom arrives in the body of Eddie's fiancée. Venom saves Eddie's life from those guards. Then he again comes into Eddie's body. Here, Eddie and his fiancée become friends again. That Venom says to Eddie that the owner had done all the experiments. Now he wanted to go into space, because his plan is to bring more parasites from space. But remember one thing, if all the parasites come here, they will destroy you. They will eat the people. Now that owner is talking about launching another spaceship with his foundation workers, but all the workers start making him understand that it will be dangerous to go there at this time, because all the parasites are against you, and people are also not supporting you. Hearing it, he kills all the workers there. He launches that spaceship himself. Meanwhile, Venom also arrives there. They fight a lot. Because Venom doesn't want that owner, it will occupy its world and bring its companion parasites here. Here we see that the owner becomes strong. He kills Venom, meaning Eddie, and goes inside the spaceship. But how can Venom die? It again comes into Eddie's body and jumps towards that spaceship. The thing from which that owner attacked Eddie, Venom, damages that spaceship with that weapon. Due to it, its fuel falls down, and then that spaceship blasts. Here we see that the owner was dead. Venom had also sacrificed its life to save Eddie. Now Eddie falls into the water. The next day, we see that Eddie and his ex-fiancée were talking while sitting. But then his fiancée listens to Venom's voice coming from Eddie's body. She says that Eddie Venom is still alive. Eddie says no, that was someone else's voice. Here, we know that Venom is still alive. After it, Eddie stands up from there and then secretly talks to Venom. He says, "See, you are living in my world, but don't let anybody know that you are living here. There are some rules that you have to follow. You will not eat humans. You will eat the bad humans, but not every day. Promise me." Then Venom asks Eddie, "Who are the bad people? Tell me." Then Eddie says, "The people who hurt others and done bad with others." Then they go into a store from there, and they see that a man has come to rob that store. Seeing it, Venom gets activated, and he eats that robber, because Eddie said that you can only eat bad people. After it, we see that everything becomes normal. Eddie was back at his old job. Means he has become the news reporter, and now he was taking an interview with a famous serial killer. With that, this movie ends here. So this is the full story of the Venom movie. If you liked this video, you can also watch the Lucy movie story by clicking on the left, where a girl used her brain at full capacity of 100%, and clicking on the right for the Hollow Man movie story of a scientist who discovers invisibility, but it disappears him forever. I hope you like the video.